Today, Denims and Casey Tron, Frogan, the Reddit mods, they're all in hot water. And we're going to talk about it today on The Legal Mindset. We teach you to be your own judge. Of course, I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney. And this is months in to the legal saga of Ethan Klein suing the three of them for copyright infringement. And it only gets worse, especially when we examine not just the court filings, but also the social media posts. And of course, this is a fast version. So if you like the quick and dirty version of the latest in legal news, like the video and leave a comment below. But if you like the live where we're going to go through all of Denims filing, we're going to go through everything, you can go over to the live version and check that out now. So of course, I've got a PP for you. I've got a PowerPoint. So let's check this out. So of course, we know the characters here. We know Casey Tron, we know Denims, we know Frogan. These are all Hassan's orbiters. These are all those that are wrapped up in this lawsuit with Ethan Klein over the Hassan Piker content nuke. So let's go and see what's happened now. So what has happened now is we initially had a filing by Ethan Klein. He filed the complaint. So Ethan Klein started it. And now we're getting a lot of the defense filings from Denims, from Casey Tron, Frogan, and the Reddit mods. So there's a number of filings that we're gone through here today, and I'm not going to bore you with the details of which one's which and whatnot. That's more of a live version aspect. But what I'm going to say is the most significant news is that the Reddit mods responded with hundreds of pages of legal filings in their defense. However, most of those pages are irrelevant exhibits. So we're going to go over the high points, some of the high arguments, and the biggest defense arguments they're bringing up now, and how those are absolutely ridiculous. We also do have a trial date tentatively set for December of 2025. So I'm very much looking forward to trials. I love trials. Trials are great. Trials are amazing. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Now, do understand that tentatively means it can be changed. And we often see in the legal system, as with many other cases, such as the case of Courtney Clenny, which I've been covering for several years and wanting to cover so hard, it's been pushed 2 years down the line. So this could be pushed into 2026 and on and on and on. But just understand, at least we have the first date that gives us something to look forward to. Now, what happened here? So in this one filing that I'm going to go through first, this is the subpoenas in regarding to the subpoenas to Reddit, Discord. This is the mods fighting back. This is the mods trying to hide from the wrath of Ethan Klein. They do not want Ethan Klein to be able to get their information, to discover them, to be able to out them, to be able to out their messages. So understand at this point, and this is the critical thing, a lot of people are going to miss this. They are trying to make their whole case in this argument before we've even had what's called discovery, before we even have any facts come out. They're just trying to gush 700 pages to prevent us from looking at the facts. Think about that for a second. Pause and think about that. All of this is a thing that is being done to stop us from getting the facts. And when somebody fights too much, it's like that old saying, the lady doth protest too much. When they fight back too much, you know what they're doing. When they have 700 pages behind it, that means there's really something to hide. And we're going to get into that today. So here's what the arguments that they brought up in this motion. I'm going to call it a motion to hide. And I took this little clip from a portion of it. There's a portion of a filing called the Statement of Facts, but I like to rebrand it as a Statement of Lies. I think that's much better. So what they tried to lay out here is kind of a picture of Ethan Klein as kind of this evil, like an evil Admiral Akbar, right? In a legal sense, where he laid this legal trap, and that's totally not permissible. And because of that, and because Ethan Klein is an evil, bad man, therefore, we shouldn't allow the facts to come out ever and see whether anything is real or not. And to be honest with you, a lot of this, when I read through it, I just purely laughed. And by the way, I'll be going through and laughing at this on the live version. So if you want to catch that, it's going to be much longer. Go to the live version. But stuff like, for example, here where they say the H3 Snark subreddit, a safe and a safe and anonymous space for criticism H3. Whenever any place calls itself a safe space, I know exactly what is going on there. And then they're laying out this trap argument. Now, I want to be a little bit empathetic on this because I have had people reach out to me, very reasonable people, and say, Andrew, this is the thing that bothers me legally, this idea of a trap. And I think the lawyers for the mods know that. So they're hyper-focusing on this word trap. But the word trap is in and of itself a trap. It's a trap, right? The trap is a trap, right? It's a trap within a trap within a trap. It's trapception. The point is, from a legal standpoint, it does not matter what your intent is when you file a copyright registration. When you register a copyright, when you file a copyright, it doesn't matter if, as they say here, Ethan laid a trap. Okay, let's say that's true. Let's presume that's true. Let's say he is a Machiavellian evil genius who laid this evil, dastardly trap. Does that change how the law functions? It actually doesn't. It doesn't change the law at all. And that is a really hard thing to accept. But what I have to explain, and I often explain to people, is there are very large corporations which do bad things. They lay traps all the time. One I'm covering right now is Pokemon. Pokemon Company International, Kabushiki Gaisha Pokemon, they lay patent traps. They set these overly broad patents which cover everything, right? And that's a trap. And they do that with intent, silently in the night, hoping nobody catches them in order to lock down an entire genre of video games. So comport that over, translate that over to here. Is that necessarily illegal? No, you can technically do that, right? You have what's called a prima facie case. Might that make you an evil person? Well, that's a subjective argument. That's a moral argument. That's not a legal argument. It is not a legal argument to say the person across from me is a bad, bad man. You can't win that way. Even if they are a bad, bad man, they have to have broken the law. They have to have done something wrong. They have to have broken a rule of procedure, etc. That argument is simply not sufficient. And then they go on to say, and I want to get into the fair use elements here, and I just had to use emojis because I was laughing throughout all this. As soon as I saw Denims use was fair use, I just started laughing. It was the pure reaction. So the first argument they make is her use is transformative and does not supersede the original. Well, that's where the empty chair comes in. That's where she's got to make the argument that what she did was so important and so innovative that it just totally changed it and made it something different. And it overwhelms the fact that she, with intent, said, please, everybody, watch this instead of his video as a replacement. So it's got to be so different that it's okay to replace the thing. Because many times when people are doing things on the internet, for example, parody, we'll even talk about Pokemon here because I love Pokemon here. If you're making Pokemon memes, you're making Pokemon, mods, whatever else, it's not a replacement for the thing. But the error that Denims made was she went out there and explicitly said, what I am doing is here to replace you watching Ethan's video. And because of that, that's where the real error comes in for this transformative element. Next, this is the most shocking thing to me, is Denims came out, the attorney said, essentially, remember, TEI is Ethan Klein. So let's read this as Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein's highly factual works support greater dissemination. So literally here, people, we have Denims lawyers saying Ethan Klein is right and factual. What? I mean, I read this and I blinked. I'm like, wow, that's one way to put it. That's one way to put it. And I know what they're trying to do legally, but this puts Denims in a really awkward position because now if she says anything online other than everything that Ethan Klein said is true and factual, it's not opinion. Everything that Ethan Klein said is fact, Denims, because if you go online now, Denims, and say that anything that Ethan Klein says is his opinion, well, that hurts your legal argument, darling. And that's not good for you. Because your lawyers just argued that he is indeed making factual arguments. Oopsie. Oopsie. Also, Denims did not negatively impact the market. She increased it. Now, this is the most and I put the stonks over here because this is the most meme coin sort of logic out there that I've ever seen in my life. It's sort of like Denims increased the market because everyone has enjoyed watching, along with my channel, every other channel, and roasting Denims and how absolutely brain dead her take is on the law and how brain dead her position here is and how screwed she is legally. She's increased the market by people roasting her, by people coming out there and making fun of her. So it's not something she intended to do. It's an unintentional secondary effect. It's very hilarious. And the last one here is stripping the original elements, TEI's thin copyrights deserve little protection. That's what I call the Trojan ultra thin argument. That's a Trojan ultra thin argument. And that one I throw out there because, look, they're trying to say that nothing that TEI does is original, that it's not something that is like, it's not something that is creative, it's not something that is on its own. And that's not true at all. And that's fundamental copyright analysis failure. That's a huge failure. What Ethan Klein put together is quintessentially unique because even taking clips of things and rearranging them has been held in court to be very, very much original, creative, etc., and deserving of copyright. If you were to compile a bunch of clips and take those together and mash them up in a unique way, you can get a copyright for that. That's absolutely permissible. So trying to say, well, because it's clips and clips and clips, it deserves no copyright protection, that doesn't work. And also think about the precedent, i.e. the effect of this. So let's play this out. If reacting to clips is like that's not protected at all, then every single clip reaction channel on the internet, right? Every single channel that uses clips everywhere, people can just take the whole thing and repost it. Does that sound right? Does that sound like that's a thing that people are going to allow? Just everybody fully copy pasting their channels. You're going to have a bunch of bots out there just spamming out new channels, and they're not going to be able to stop them because, hey, that's fair use, right? No, that's not how it works. And it just seems to me like this is a very, very thin argument. And if you look at the substance of these arguments, which I believe is going to be the substance of the arguments for Frogan and Caseytron, these are laughable arguments. These are arguments that are so funny that, I mean, literally it hurts. I'm trying not to laugh right now. I already did earlier, but this is absolutely hilarious. So going from there, there are other filings that have other things that were very revealing beyond these fair use arguments. One was this argument they're bringing up regarding the human skulls that were sent to Ethan and Hilla and saying, well, Ethan and Hilla sent the skulls themselves. The skulls were sent by them. It's all a conspiracy. It's all involving some humble fruit farmers, right? And Taylor Lorenz, of course, because she shows up in everything, right? Taylor Lorenz and the Kiwis, they did it, right? How does that have anything to do with copyright law? What does that have to do with copyright law? What does a human skull have to do with copyright? That has nothing to do with anything. And it has nothing to do with whether or not the court should allow for people to look at the messages of people on Reddit, right? This is really what this is about, people. This is just whether or not Reddit as a platform will have to turn over the messages, turn over things. And the thing is, the reality is Reddit itself is scared. It's not just the mods. The rabbit hole is going to go way, way deeper on this. Just wait. Next slide here. You see Reddit itself. Reddit itself offered. So many, and let me read this quote here. Many of my fellow moderators have endured a deep psychological impact and fear of retaliation to the point that Reddit admins offered us free subscriptions to privacy software that would help remove our PII. PII is personal identifiable information. And by the way, guys on this channel, remember that term. PII is some of the most, that is the gold of the modern era. Every company is trying to farm your PII. If they're trying to give you something for free, it's because they're farming you like an NPC. They're just farming you for that sweet, sweet PII. That's really at the undercurrent of a lot of what's going on. But here we go. Reddit here says, hey, we're going to help you scrub that information from the internet in case we are doxxed and harassed. So Reddit is actually engaging in potential, and once again, I'm going to say allegedly, according to this statement, once again, this is their own filing, but they literally told on themselves and said Reddit admins are helping them scrub evidence. So this can now be escalated by Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein can look at his lawyers, which I'm sure are going to get this clip. I'm very sure they're going to look at this quote over here and say, wait a second, Reddit admins are scrubbing evidence? Okay, now we're going to go deeper into Reddit and see what's going on here. What is going on with the protection of these people? How deep does this go? Now we may get cell phone logs. Now we may get text messages. Now we may get corporate emails because Reddit admins have decided to step in, not just the mods. They themselves, by their own filings, have deepened this lawsuit. And this is a hilarious one, which I thought as well, which for those that were around and have been around on the internet and have been victims of this is a horrible thing. And I've been saying this for the past, as long as I've been on the internet. Swatting is horrible. But this is sort of the like consequences are coming around to people that have never had consequences thing. So their whole argument for not giving up their information, where their messages, etc., is the repercussions if we are unmasked are not hypothetical. As a harsh reality I know we would face if our identities were revealed, I'm certain we'd be targets of swatting, a dangerous and potentially deadly harassment tactic. And you know what? I agree. But here's the thing. Many people on Reddit have been swatting people for ages with no consequences, with nothing coming back at them. And now when they're the ones where there might be some internet repercussions, are like, oh, no. It's all fun and games when you have no face and you're behind a little avatar. But now that you're going to be unmasked, things are going to get serious, huh? And this is going to happen all across the internet. This is why this case is so important, because we do need to unmask these people that have been engaging in these tactics consequence-free. They've been online doing these things consequence-free, and we can get them through the legal process. And this is completely legal. Right? This is absolutely legal. This is why this case is massive precedent, and this is why it is so important overall for the online ecosystem. And once again, this is done in a peaceful, non-violent way where we're just figuring out the truth. Hey, who's really behind that little anime waifu avatar? Okay. So really, at the end of the day, the basic question, the question that still remains at the end of this, and this is the question for the court, is does Ethan Klein, 10 Entertainment, have the right to know who willfully and deliberately engaged in copyright infringement against Ethan Klein with the intent to cause financial harm? So that's what the court has to ask. Does Ethan Klein have the right to know? And the answer, the spoiler alert, is clearly yes, right? The court is going to answer yes. There's no other possible answer. Like, it's not, oh, we get to hide. Oh, no, there's a right to hide because we have feelings. Oh, we might be, oh, no. No, you don't get to hide from consequences because you might be swatted. People face criminal prosecution, civil prosecution all the time, every single day. They're dragged out there in court. You think these people are so deranged. They believe that the internet is a shield, this magical shield, a magical barrier. And their little minds on Reddit are blown when this magical barrier disappears and all of a sudden you're exposed. Well, guess what? That's consequences. That's reality. Real people deal with that all the time. And they thought they were living in another reality or another timeline or another thing where they can just get away with whatever they want to do online without any sort of consequences. Well, that's not going to happen. Now, I will say, and to be very fair, because once again, I do try to be very fair, there are certain protections for certain types of protected information. So for example, if someone was a minor or a law enforcement officer or a judge or something like that, yes, maybe there are certain things that could be protected, but they're going to have to prove that. And they're going to have to prove they are somebody that has protected characteristics of the PII or certain types of PII that might be protected. But Ethan Klein is going to get a lot. He may not get every single last detail, but he's going to get a lot. These people will definitely be exposed. Okay. We do have the trial date. That is December 14th, 2026. And once again, this can change, but this gives us a note because once again, I think that Denims, Frogan, Casey Tron, they all thought this is just some hypothetical thing. This wasn't going to happen. This will never happen. Girls, it's happening. You're not going to stop it. Now you can delay it. This may go down to January, February. It may go another year. Who knows? Right? Oh, and I'm sorry. I got the date wrong. I scuffed this hard. I'm not going to re-record this video. I scuffed this hard. It's actually December 14th, 2026. So ignore the part earlier in the PowerPoint where I said 2025. 2026. We still got a date. The point is we have a fixed date for this. And because we have a fixed date for this, they can now look forward in their heads to, okay, next year, 2026, this is going to be the bombshell that's going to drop. And that is going to be just something dangling over their head, which is perfect. Okay, So let's get into another thing I want to mention, and this is to wrap up the video here at the end. Denims made some really inappropriate comments against members of the VTubing community, as well as many other members out there, streamers, etc. She was trying to pick on an individual an individual chatter. Right. So instead of going after this individual, she took this opportunity to, of course, she was going to take shots at Asmongold. That's natural. She actually ignored Tectone. I think Tectone definitely offended by being ignored Ethan Klein even, but she went out of her way more than she hated on Asmongold. Once again, she ignored Tectone. She ignored Ethan Klein, who's suing her in this lawsuit that I just talked about for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So more important than this $100,000 lawsuit was to make fun of people. I'm not kidding about this. This is serious. Was to pick on people with 2D avatars, sometimes 3D, mostly 2D anime-ish avatars. That's her top problem. That's her top threat. Her top threat, people like Pippa Pipkin, Kirsha, Riri, a lot of other people. But she actually started out by picking on Iron Mouse. And I felt like I needed to tuck this in here as an ultimate L, because not only are you not focusing on your lawsuit, Denims, as you should be, you are picking on a poor girl with immune deficiency. This poor girl is engaged in a massive lawsuit, or rather legal struggle. We don't know whether she's suing it or not. She had hundreds of thousands, if not millions, stolen from her by a corporation that committed charity fraud and completely abused its employees, a horrible thing. She's wrapped up in that. She has immune deficiency, and you decide, of all people, to come out and pick on her. Why? Well, because she feels threatened by VTubers, by these 2D avatars. She cannot handle it. She feels like people are going to go over there and spend their money on them instead of on her OnlyFans. And that was possibly the most sad and pathetic thing. And it was doubly sad because, once again, you're picking on people that, once again, like Iron Mouse, there could not be a more sympathetic person out there, period. Right? Period. And then she goes on to pick on Kirsha, Pippa, etc., a bunch of people. But I did really, and I want to leave you guys with this today, find out the real reason why Denims is so salty and so against VTubers. And that's, of course, because they put out better foot content than her. That's really it. That's really it. She was very mad. She was very mad at Riri because the foot content is just unparalleled. I mean, you really can't match that there. So that's why Denims is salty. She's losing the lawsuit. She's losing her pay pigs. Guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and I will catch you on the next.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.